Hi everyone, this is Cecil, and on today's Yellowstone podcast, I'm going to be talking about the section of road between Fishing Bridge and Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, or Canyon Village. Now, as is so often the case, I do suggest that you watch this podcast on YouTube rather than listen to it on Spotify or Google Podcasts. But if you can't do that, then consider going to our motel site, bringing up a map of the park, which you can see at ysmotel.com/map. That's YS, short for Yellowstone, ysmotel.com/map. You can see to what I'm referring. And I will also be using a map of Yellowstone from Google. Those of you who've seen several of these podcasts or videos will know that the roads through Yellowstone make up a massive figure of 8. Tour companies like ours will divide our tours into a tour of the lower loop of the figure of 8 and a tour of the upper loop of the figure of 8. And today we're going to be in the northeast corner of Yellowstone's lower loop, and we'll be making our way from Fishing Bridge, which is where you can see the road that runs off to Yellowstone's east entrance. We'll be going from Fishing Bridge up to Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, which is more or less where Canyon Village is located. If we have a look at the map now, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on Fishing Bridge, and you can see as we depart the Fishing Bridge area, we're going to be leaving Yellowstone Lake behind us, and we'll be following the Yellowstone River in a general northerly direction. And the first main point of interest we come to is the Lahadi Rapids. You can find a parking place right next to the road, and it'll give you a good view of these rapids as the water makes its way down the Yellowstone River. In this part of Yellowstone, and I'm switching back to Google Maps, on the east side of Yellowstone, there's really only two major thermal areas. One of them we've seen several times before. It is the West Thumb area, which you'll find right at the bottom of Yellowstone's Grand Loop Road. And the other one is the Mud Volcano and Sulphur Cauldron area. Now, you'll notice from the map that I'm looking at the map in satellite view. And the reason that I like to do that is that I get clues from the landscape as to what we can expect. Whenever we see one of these whiter areas that I'm circling, that's a sign that there either is a thermal area there now or there used to be a thermal area, because this is likely to be sinter. And sinter is a mineral that gets brought up by the geysers and hot springs as they bring water up from underground and they deposit sinter. So if we look carefully at this map, as we continue in a general northerly direction, our first major point of interest we can see is in an area where there is a lot of sinter. And this is the Mud Volcano area, followed by Sulphur Cauldron. I'm going to zoom in quite a bit, as much as Google Maps will let me, and we can see that there's a parking lot right next to the road. Now, those of you who've watched several of these video podcasts will know that we also have what we call virtual Yellowstone tours of all the roads in the park. And what I'm showing you is the virtual Yellowstone tour between Fishing Bridge and Canyon Village. And I'm going past the Mud Volcano area at the moment, which you can see on the left, and in a moment you're going to see the parking lot to Mud Volcano, and you'll be able to see all the cars in it. The reason that I'm showing you this is twofold. Number one, we can see where the parking lot is, and number two, just be aware that we do have these video alternatives, and we're coming to Sulphur Cauldron now as well. But to go back to the map, I'm now showing you the parking lot again. And if you look carefully, you can see that there are two loops. I'm showing you the first one, which is right next to the parking lot, and then when I zoom out a bit, you can see there's a second loop that makes its way around the mud volcano area. On our tours, which incidentally you can see at yellowstonetours.net, that's yellowstonetours.net, on our tours we generally just do the lower loop, the loop that is closer to the parking lot. You'll see Mud Volcano there, you'll see Dragon's Mouth as well, and talking of those, if you go back to our YouTube channel, here's a video of the Dragon's Mouth Spring, which is probably the highlight of this part of the area. You've got this water, it's almost like a sea wave, splashing and regurgitating backwards and forwards in that little cave that I'm zooming in on at the moment. If we go back now to the map again, I was telling you that there is a second loop that we can do in this area, and this loop climbs up a hill, which you can see on the left, and then flattens out a bit when you get to the top, and then makes its way down again back to the parking lot. We generally, as I mentioned before, do not include this on our tours. It does take a little bit of a while to do this loop. I've never felt that there's anything really that special up here, but there are people who do enjoy it, and if you have time, you may like to consider doing it as well. Just after the Mud Volcano area, we'll come to Sulphur Cauldron, which you can see is also right next to the road, just on the other side of the road. I'd like to show you one of our, what we call our virtual Yellowstone tours, of the scenery across the Yellowstone River from the south end of the Sulphur Cauldron parking lot. If I do go to this area, I like to get there fairly early in the morning, and I was there just after sunset just after sunrise when I shot this video. And notice how cool it looks with the sun backlighting and illuminating those billows of steam that you see coming off the thermal features. Sulphur Cauldron itself, I can either take or leave. It's one of those thermal features in Yellowstone that doesn't exactly inspire me a lot, but if you're there, the Park Service has put in little parking lots both just before and just after you come to Sulphur Cauldron, and you may like to stop and take a look. I'm going to zoom out now, and we'll notice that the terrain is a lot paler color than the green that is all around it. And if I go back to the map, which you can see at our site, ysmotel.com/map, we can clearly see that that is the Hayden Valley. Now there's two main valleys in Yellowstone where you can expect to see a lot of wildlife. And the Hayden Valley is the one that we are looking at now. The Hayden Valley measures approximately 7 miles from west to east, and also 7 miles from south to north as well. And it is an area that has got just so much wildlife in it. You will find that there are pullouts where you're at an elevated area overlooking the Yellowstone River, and you've got the most wonderful views of the eastern part of the valley. Unfortunately, because of the topography of the land and where the hills are located, you don't get to see that much of the Hayden Valley to the west of the road. So you'll focus most of your attention to the east of the road where the river is, and once again there are some really glorious sights there. I'm going to zoom out a bit, and the next major attraction that we come to on this stretch of road is the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. And the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone is really such an unexpected treat and such a delight amongst all these thermal wonders. If we go to the top of the map now, we'll see that the National Park Service, because this is a National Park Service map, has included close-ups of some of the more popular areas in Yellowstone, and here is one of the Canyon Village area, and I'm going to see if I can zoom in a bit on Google Maps as well, so you can get an idea of what the terrain looks like. There we go. Now, this over here on the left is the road that you're taking up from the Hayden Valley. And if we look at the other map, we can see right at the bottom here, this is the road that you will be on. And there are three main roads, if you like, that you can take to view the various sites at Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. The first one you'll come to, the most southern one, is the South Rim Drive. And you'll go over what's known as the Chittenden Bridge and pass over the Yellowstone River. Now, if you're somebody who likes to hike, I'd like to draw your attention to this. There are two really great hikes in this area, which you can see in our YouTube channel as well. Just go to YouTube and search for North Rim Hike and South Rim Hike. If you look carefully here, you can see the Waipiti Lake trailhead. And this is where you would park your car to do both the South Rim Trail as well as the North Rim Trail. The South Rim Trail is a lot shorter, and what we often do when we do this hike is we'll do the entire hike and then we'll make our way back along the road because it's so much quicker. With the North Rim hike being quite a bit longer, it does take quite a while longer to get back as well. There are ways around that, and if you look at our video of the North Rim hike, you'll see what I mean. But let's assume that today we're not going to do the hike, and we're just going to make our way along this road, along the South Rim Drive. We'll see that there is a parking lot. It's called the Uncle Tom's Trail. And the Uncle Tom's Trail not only crosses over the South Rim Trail, but you can, in the old days, you used to be able to park in this parking lot and then take Uncle Tom's Trail down along the canyon wall. It was the most stunning walk. It was pretty tough on the way back, but unfortunately it was closed last year. It's closed this year. When I say this year, 2021, and we don't know when it's going to be open. The trail, unfortunately, is in a dangerous condition, but you can still get some views of the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone if you park in the parking lot and make your way down to the South Rim Trail. We'll then continue to the end of this drive, and we're going to come to what's known as Artist Point. And for my money, Artist Point has the best views of anywhere at Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. It is so stunning. And while I'm talking about that, I want to show you very briefly another video I shot, this time at Artist Point, and you'll find this in our YouTube channel as well. What I'm zooming in at the moment on is the lower falls across the river there, across the canyon, is where the North Rim Drive is. And there are spectacular views there as well, but just look at these views that you get here. This was just after Yellowstone opened, so there was nobody there, virtually nobody there at all. Normally this place is absolutely packed, and you make your way up to the top to another vantage point, and the views are even more spectacular here, as you'll see in a moment. And once again, we're looking down the canyon towards the lower falls. Unfortunately, you can't see the upper falls from here. And as I zoom in, I don't know how close I'm going to go in, but just to the right of the falls above it is the viewing point that you get to see if you take the trail down to the brink of the upper falls, and you can see that as well in another one of our virtual Yellowstone tours. So we'll get to Artist Point. There is a parking lot there, and you'll get out, you'll explore Artist Point. The views, once again, are really just spectacular. We'll now make our way back along the South Rim Drive, cross over the Chittenden Bridge again, and then we'll continue north on the road towards Canyon Village. And for the last about 18 months, for whatever reason, the signpost to the brink of the upper falls has been down. And if it is still down when you get here, just remember that if you turn right at the next road, because there's no other roads there, turn right at the next road and it'll take you to a parking lot from where you can take a trail down to the brink of the upper falls. Now, we do include this trail on our tours, which once again you can see at yellowstonetours.net. And the reason that we include this trail is that although the walk back up is fairly steep and you are at altitude, it's not that long. Incidentally, we can see where the serrated line is. This is the North Rim Trail hike. This is the North Rim hiking trail. If you did want an actual hike, if you wanted a guided hike in Yellowstone, we do offer those as well, and you can see them at YellowstoneDayHikes.com. That's YellowstoneDayHikes.com, hikes of anywhere from 2 hours to a full day. So if you're up to it, I do suggest that you consider going and viewing the upper falls. The view, once again, is spectacular. And I know I use that word a lot, but you're standing right on top of the falls. You're actually above the falls looking down on them, and you almost feel like you can reach out and touch the water. We'll then retrace our steps, get back to the Grand Loop Road, and we'll then turn right on the North Rim Drive. The North Rim Drive has more viewpoints than the South Rim Drive. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Here's where the North Rim Drive is, and you can see there's a parking lot, and this will take you to the brink of the lower falls. This walk is really steep on the way back. It's also long, and that's why we don't include it on our tours, because some people may not be up to doing the walk back. But once again, if you're used to the elevation, if you're fairly fit, if the altitude is not causing you any concerns, if you've got water with you, consider taking it. It is really a wonderful view when you get down to the bottom. If you get back in your car and continue along the North Rim Drive, we're going to come to several points. There are overlooks of the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone all the way along this road, but the first main overlook we come to is called Lookout Point. And if you'll excuse the pun, what I always tell our tour guests to look out for is as you start walking up the trail towards Lookout Point, look down to your left. You'll see there's a steep sheer drop, and you'll see some hoodoo-like rock formations. In other words, a rock pillar that is sticking up. And for years, there's been an osprey's nest down there. In fact, occasionally more than one osprey's nest. And in the spring, you'll find that the ospreys sit on the nest, and then they do give birth, and the little ones start to learn how to fly. And it really does make for wonderful views. Take a look at Lookout Point. You can see back to the lower falls. You then come to Grand Viewpoint, and unfortunately you can't see the falls from there. I don't think that the views are quite as grand at Grand Viewpoint as they are at Lookout Point, but it's still worth a visit nonetheless. Get back into your car from Grand Viewpoint and make your way along the road, and then you have to take a little detour along a side road to get to Inspiration Point. The views here, once again, are great. You've got some wonderful views of the canyon, some wonderful views of the river as well. If you look really carefully, there's actually thermal features. You can see steam coming off the river over here at Inspiration Point and at various other of the points as well. That is Grand Viewpoint, and I'm getting back to the map at our site now, ysmotel.com, and you can see that we're now going to be coming to Canyon Village. There's a visitor education center there. There's the largest lodging facility in the park there. There is a restaurant, and there's various other points of interest there as well. So it is worth a visit. Canyon Village is worth a visit as well. Guys, thank you for joining me on today's Yellowstone podcast. Remember, if you're looking for lodging in the Yellowstone area, consider our motel, ysmotel.com/map. That's ysmotel.com/map. We're located in the small town of West Yellowstone, which is right at Yellowstone's west entrance and the main or busiest entrance to Yellowstone. If you're looking for a Yellowstone tour, we run more Yellowstone tours literally than anyone in the world. And you can see them at yellowstonetours.net. That's yellowstonetours.net. Looking for a day hike, a shorter hike in the Yellowstone area, our site yellowstonedayhikes.com will show you the various hikes we offer, anywhere from 2 hours to a day. Remember, our YouTube channel, which you can find at Yellowstone Tours, has got so many videos, just so much stuff that you can look at and do your research before you get here. Thanks for joining me again, and I look forward to seeing you at Yellowstone someday.